Suspended captain Steve Smith breaks down in tears after arriving back in Sydney, as he apologises for his role in the ball tampering scandal that has rocked Australian cricket. The banned Australian cricket vice-captain breaks his silence over his role in the ball tampering scandal, apologising for the distress he caused to the sport and its fans. A human leg found in a Tasmanian river in 1984 and later buried is exhumed for DNA profiling and finally linked to a missing Irishman. Porn star Stormy Daniels seems to be the one person in the US president's orbit who is untouchable. Here's what he stands to lose if he so much as mentions her name, writes Michelin Maynard. Two aged care workers accused of assaulting an elderly dementia patient are cleared of any wrongdoing, after a Perth magistrate views footage captured by the woman's son that showed no evidence of untoward treatment. The Basslink cable connecting Tasmania to the mainland is out until appropriate expertise and equipment from overseas arrives, the company says, with a third-party contractor blamed. Millions of Christians will gather this Easter weekend to worship a Saviour who bears little resemblance to the man executed millennia ago. It's an issue, given the importance of having diverse role models in modern society, writes Robin J. Whitaker. Women speak out about their retirement savings as new research shows half of all women currently in their late 50s will finish work with less than $50,000 in superannuation, and they are 50% more likely than men to face that scenario. There are calls to regulate the placenta encapsulation industry in Australia after a newborn baby in the United States contracted a deadly blood infection linked to its mother taking the pills last year. A franchise specialist says she has been flooded with complaints against Retail Food Group, with some franchisees saying their lives have been destroyed. Adelaide Crows have only had to wait until round 2 of the 2018 AFL season to seek revenge against Premier's Richmond Tigers in a blockbuster grand final replay. Follow the action with our live score center. Kim Jong-un and his South Korean counterpart Moon Jae-in will meet on April 27, the first summit between the two countries in more than a decade, which is likely to address the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula and improvement of relations between the two countries. Former Auburn Deputy Mayor Salim Mahaya, who is accused of faking a car crash to avoid fronting court, is granted bail by a New South Wales Supreme Court judge. Animal cruelty inspectors are trying to track down a man caught allegedly throwing a cat against the side of a house and then laughing about the act. A U.S. family that gained attention for an emotional photograph of an African-American boy hugging a white police officer at a 2014 protest are thought to have been killed when their car plunged off a scenic Californian highway. A man is charged with people smuggling after 9 Indian nationals are detained by Border Force at Brisbane Airport, accused of fraudulently claiming to be journalists arriving for the Commonwealth Games. Victorian Labor MP Hong Lim apologises after raising the middle finger during question time, but dismissed a later altercation in a lift with a Liberal MP as a robust discussion. Tasmanian Premier Will Hodgman says he is satisfied no other members of his staff trolled social media via fake accounts during the recent election campaign. This ice is dense, perfectly clear, and made from Hobart's humble tap water. A review into the operations and effectiveness of the Tasmania University Union, commissioned by the organisation at a cost of about $120,000, reports that it should consider dissolving, such is the state of its operations and relevance. A police officer rejects defense accusations that detectives had been zeroing in on Cardinal George Pell, and had failed to take statements from nuns, choir members and church officials which were favorable to the Catholic cleric. Authorities in the nation, where prisons are notoriously lawless, overcrowded and filled with weapons and drugs, vow to investigate what happened, as families of those inside wait to hear if their loved ones are among the dead. At just 15, Malala Yousafzai was shot in the head when masked Taliban gunmen stopped and boarded a bus taking her home from school. A Nobel Peace Prize, and 6 years later, she has finally returned to Pakistan. Ads for companies like Woolworths and BMW have appeared in articles from websites that target Muslim people and other groups, because of a loophole in Facebook's instant articles publishing tool. Finding a WA police officer not guilty of indecent assault after grabbing a woman on the bottom, a magistrate rules it seems to have lost its overtly sexual connotation. A Melbourne man who murdered his wife in front of their children, in an act police believe was driven by his desire to join the Islamic State group, is sentenced to life in prison. activity and heart rate data collected from a smartwatch worn by an Adelaide grandmother who was brutally attacked in her home led to the arrest of her daughter-in-law, who has been charged with her murder, a court hears. Unable to treat the infection with standard antibiotics, UK officials are trialling different drugs on the man, who reportedly had sexual contact with a woman in Southeast Asia 1 month before his symptoms began. Channel 9 wins the Australian Open tennis broadcast rights from rival television network 7, under a 5-year, $300 million deal.